This video will explain the new additions and changes in the 1.18 update Caves and Cliffs Part 2. A lot of the core aspects of the game, like ores, mountains, caves, and world generation, have been changed. This video will try to summarize the 1.18 update so you can easily step into it and play. If you enjoy this video, remember to hit the subscribe button to get Minecraft tutorials and Let's Plays. The biggest addition and changes are to world generation. Now the floor of the world or bedrock will be at -59 instead of at 0. The clouds will be raised from 128 to 192. The world height limit has been increased to 384 from 320. This adds 128 blocks of space vertically in the world. With the world floor being lower, now stone will generate above Y layer 8, and deep slate will start to appear at 8, and it being completely deep slate from 0 and below. Now you can use deep slate as an indication you are halfway between bedrock and the surface. Tough blocks will appear in large blobs between Y layer 16 and below. Dirt, diorite, granite, and andesite will not generate below 0. The caves have been completely changed in this update. There will be 3 new types of noise caves. The first is the cheese cave. This is a large cave that will have stone pillars in the middle going from the top to the bottom. The cheese cave will be large enough that you can fly in it with elytra. The spaghetti cave are long thin caves that will be similar to the old caves before this update. The noodle caves are thin claustrophobic caves that will be harder to move through. Aquifers will be bodies of water found at different heights that are independent of sea level. The aquifers won't be unique caves, but other caves that are filled with water. If these aquifers generate below 0, they will be filled with lava. If you are converting your old world into this update, the old caves will blend in with the new caves. 2 new cave biomes have also been added, the Lush Cave and the Dripstone Cave. The 2 new cave biomes will integrate the blocks and mobs from the 1.17 update, as they didn't generate in the game before and had to be found in loot chests or through wandering traders. The Dripstone Cave will be filled with stone blocks, dripstone blocks, pointed dripstone, and water. There is also a higher chance to find copper ore blobs in Dripstone Caves. The drowned can spawn in aquifers inside Dripstone Caves. The Lush Cave biome will be filled with blocks like azaleas, flowering azaleas, hanging roots, spore blossoms, small drip leaf, big drip leaf, moss blocks, moss carpet, and glowberries. The Lush Cave will have cave vines and hanging roots hanging from the ceiling with the ground covered in moss carpet and blocks. There will be water pools with clay blocks at the bottom and drip leaf. The spore blossom will be added into survival. It will emit green particles from it and has to be placed on the bottom of a block. The spore blossom can only be acquired from the Lush Cave biome. Big drip leaf can only be placed on clay, coarse dirt, farmland, grass blocks, moss blocks, mycelium, podzol, and rooted dirt blocks. The axolotl can now only be found in the Lush Cave biome in water on clay blocks. Tropical fish can also be found in the Lush Cave biome. The azalea tree can now be found on the surface. It will be composed of oak logs, flowering azalea, and azalea leaves. It will usually generate in forested areas. Under the azalea tree will be rooted dirt blocks. You can follow these down to a Lush Cave biome. The cave biomes are independent from the ones on the surface, so if you use F3, they will show different biomes on the surface than underground and vice versa. The ore distribution has been completely changed in the 1.18 update. Now there are multiple batches depending on the ore. Batches are the range, the amount of ores in a blob, whether they are exposed to air, and the way the ore generates. This means there can be a batch that generates ore in mountains and underground, with each one generating the ore differently. The batches can also have a specific level that they are most likely to be and decrease from there. For example, Lapis Lazuli is currently like this. Here is a chart showing the changes in 1.18 from 1.17 with ore distribution. You can see that the ores have multiple batches and the ores don't overlap like in 1.17 and before. This means you will have to mine differently in 1.18 compared to 1.17. Diamond ore has 2 batches. The best spot to mine for them is closer to bedrock or -63. It can be found as high as 14. Diamond batches are less likely to generate exposed to air. Also, there's a chance in 1 of 9 chunks for there to be a blob of 0 to 23 diamond ores. Redstone ore has 2 batches. It can generate from 15 down to -63, being more likely closer to bedrock. Gold ore has 1 batch that goes from 30 to -63. The best level to get gold ore is -17. It is also reduced by exposure to air. The Badlands biome for gold ore is the same as before, level 32 to 79, and a lot more likely to get gold ore in this biome. Copper ore is the same as 1.17, being found between 0 to 96, with the best level being 47 and 48. Coal ore has 2 batches. It can be found between 320 down to 0. The highest concentration is at 95. Coal ore is also affected by air exposure in 1 batch. Emerald ore generates from level 32 to 320, being most common at 255, and can only have 1 ore in a blob. Emeralds can only be found in mountain biomes. Lapis Lazuli is generated in 2 batches. The first batch is from -32 to 30 and is most common around -1, decreasing at the ends of the range. The second batch is from -64 to 64 with an even distribution and cannot be exposed to air. Iron ore is generated in 3 batches. It can be found between -63 and 320. In the mountains, the best level is 255 and underground is 15. What all of this means is you can't branch mine at one level and get all of the ores anymore. The best way to mine is either go through the caves or try to mine for one specific ore. A new feature added is the ore vein. This is a long streak of ores that branch out, possibly in several different directions. Above 0, this is composed of copper ore, raw copper blocks, and granite. Below 0, it will be iron ore, raw iron blocks, and tough blocks. These ore veins can have several stacks of ores depending on the size of the ore veins. The best way to find an ore vein is by finding the filler block next to an ore. Also, the terrain height is no longer a part of the biomes. Height variant biomes like ones with hills in the name and unused biomes have been removed. Terrain generates independent of the biomes. The biomes will adapt to the terrain. This will allow for smoother transition between biomes. This simplifies the biomes as they can have several different height variations within them. The biomes removed are the Badlands Plateau, the Bamboo Jungle Hills, the Birch Forest Hills, the Dark Forest Hills, the Deep Warm Ocean, the Desert Hills, the Desert Lakes, the Giant Spruce Taiga Hills, the Giant Tree Taiga Hills, the Gravelly Mountains Plus, the Jungle Hills, the Modified Badlands Plateau, Modified Jungle Edge, Modified Wooded Badlands Plateau, Mountain Edge, Mushroom Field Shore, Shattered Savanna Plateau, Snowy Mountains, Snowy Taiga Hills, Snowy Taiga Mountains, Swamp Hills, Taiga Mountains, Tall Birch Hills, and Wooded Hills. Also, some of the biomes have been renamed, including Tall Birch Forest to the Old Growth Birch Forest, Giant Tree Taiga to the Old Growth Pine Taiga, Giant Spruce Taiga to the Old Growth Spruce Taiga, the Snowy Tundra to the Snowy Plains, the Jungle Edge to the Sparse Jungle, the Stone Shore to the Stony Shore, the mountains to the Windswept Hills, the Wooded Mountains to the Windswept Forest, the Gravelly Mountains to the Windswept Gravelly Hills, the Shattered Savanna to the Windswept Savanna, and Wooded Badlands Plateau to Wooded Badlands. The mountains have also been changed. Now there are 9 mountain biomes with 6 new biomes. 3 of the new mountain biomes will be peaks at the top of a mountain, and 3 will be slopes or plateaus. The 3 previous mountain biomes are mountains that have been renamed to Windswept Hills, the Gravelly Mountains to Windswept Gravelly Hills, and Wooded Mountains to the Windswept Forest. The 6 new biomes are Meadow, Grove, Snowy Slopes, Stony Peaks, Jagged Peaks, and Frozen Peaks. All of the mountain peaks will have peaks in the name. The meadow will be similar to the plains and can generate with 1 oak or birch tree that will have a bee's nest on it. The meadow can have sheep, donkeys, and rabbits spawn in it. The meadow is the only mountain biome that can have a village in it. Meadows can generate on the slopes of a mountain or in a plateau. It will generate next to plains or temperate biomes. The grove has a surface of dirt, snow, powdered snow, and spruce trees. The powdered snow can now be found in the world and in this biome and the snowy slopes biome. The powdered snow can be picked up with an empty bucket. It is hard to tell the difference between a powdered snow block and a snow block. The powdered snow seems to be under a snow block when it is 2 blocks high. The passive mobs that can spawn in the grove are sheep, pigs, chicken, cow, wolves, rabbits, and foxes. The grove generates next to forested biomes like dark forest and taigas. The snowy slopes will be covered in snow, powdered snow, and stone. The snowy slopes can generate with igloos in them. It is the only mountain biome that has igloos. The only passive mob that can spawn in the snowy slopes are rabbits and goats. Goats now appear in 3 biomes, all mountain biomes: the snowy slopes, the jagged peaks, and the frozen peaks. The snowy slopes generally are next to less forested biomes like the plains and snowy plains. At lower heights it can generate next to snowy biomes. Jagged peaks are composed of stone, snow, and ice on the surface. The only mob that spawns in the jagged peaks is the goat. The jagged peaks can reach as high as 256 in the world. The jagged peaks can generate in snowy, cold, or temperate biome clusters, basically anything besides warmer biomes. The frozen peaks are similar to the jagged peaks, except they will have packed ice. Also, they generate in snowy, cold, or temperate biome clusters. The Stony Peaks will be covered in stone, andesite, calcite, granite, gravel, and ore blobs on the surface. The calcite strips will be one of the 2 spots to get calcite besides the amethyst geode. There won't be any passive mobs that spawn in the Stony Peaks. The Stony Peaks generate in warmer biomes like savannas and jungles. Other biome changes are that ocean biomes will match the temperature of the land biomes. For example, frozen oceans will generate in snowy taigas, snowy plains, or snowy beaches. Cold oceans generate within taigas, old-growth taigas, plains, and forests. Normal oceans can only generate within plains, forest, birch forest, and dark forest. Lukewarm oceans can now only generate within savannas, jungles, and sometimes plains and forests. Warm oceans can now only generate within deserts and badlands. Besides oceans, the stony shores will generate strips of gravel and can also generate alongside any biome. Before, it could only be next to mountain biomes. Badlands can now generate in mountain peaks. Red sand generates a bit higher in the world now. Red sandstone can now appear naturally in the game. Also, beaches will be wider. Some of the changes to structures include deserts can have villages and desert pyramids, taigas can have villages and pillager outposts, swamps can have swamp huts, and snowy taigas can have igloos. The desert pyramid will no longer generate on water and now will spawn on the surface, but tend to be partially buried. Buried treasure can now have a water-breathing potion in it. The amount of dungeons has increased, especially below 0. Fossils in the deep underground will have diamond ore instead of coal ore. Jungle pyramids will no longer generate on water. Mine shafts can now generate higher up in the world in Badlands. Pillager outposts can generate in all the new mountain biomes. Villages will be a lot more spread out. The amethyst geode can now only generate up to Y layer 30. Also now, lava springs now generate in mountains and snowy terrain. Water springs will not generate above Y layer 192. Water lakes were removed because aquifers could provide local water levels. Lava lakes now only generate below Y layer 0. The only item added in the game is the new music disc called Other Side. This can be found in the Stronghold corridor chest or in the dungeon chest. There has been new music added to the game. All of these will play when in the new mountain biomes or cave biomes. 4 new advancements have been added. Caves and Cliffs is falling from the top of the world to the bottom of the world. Feels Like Home is riding a strider on lava for 50 blocks in the overworld. Sound of Music is playing music with a jukebox in a meadow biome. Star Trader is to trade with a villager at the build height limit. Some changes to the mobs include cod, salmon, pufferfish, tropical fish, squid, and dolphins now only spawn at 50 to 64. Evoker, Pillager, Vindicator, and Illusioner won't attack baby villagers. Glow squids now spawn in water under Y level 30. Horses, mules, donkeys now will follow players holding golden carrots, golden apples, and enchanted golden apples. Llamas will now follow players holding hay bales. One of the biggest changes is hostile mobs will only spawn at light level 0, not like previously at light level 7 or below. Hostile mobs can only spawn in total darkness. There are exceptions to this, however. Some other changes include cave vines, kelp, twisting vines, and weeping vines will stop growing if shears are used on the tip. Copper ore will now drop 2 to 5 raw copper instead of 2 to 3 raw copper. Enchanting tables now emit a light level of 7, before they didn't emit any light. The frequency of underwater magma blocks has been increased. Now in the stone cutter, a block of copper can be converted to 4 cut copper. Sleeping will now only reset the weather cycle if it is rain or thunderstorms. The sneak and sprint and auto jump have been moved to the controls tab. Amplified and large biomes have been adapted to the new terrain. There are also several hundred issues fixed in this update. When worlds are converted over from the old worlds, there will be smoothing from the old world to the update. The existing terrain will now blend with the new chunks. Player-made structures in these chunks will either be intact, buried, or deteriorated. Old bedrock will be replaced with deep slate. Below Y layer 0 will be filled with deep slate and caves. A new bedrock layer will be at -64. Also, worlds in the previous version that have height variant biomes will be converted to the default variants. There have been a lot of additions and changes in this update. I hope you enjoy.